Democrats, of course, are hoping to win the White House in November, but that is not all. They're also making a play for the House of Representatives. A new article in the New York Times says Democrats are trying to capitalize on Donald Trump's unpopularity. It reads, quote, "Emboldened by Donald J. Trump's struggles in the presidential race, Democrats in Congress are laying the groundwork to expand the list of House Republicans they will target for defeat as part of an effort to slash the Republicans' 30-seat majority and even reclaim control if Mr. Trump falls further." Let's talk about these prospects with Ed Rollins. He's former White House advisor to President Reagan, Fox News political analyst, and the co-chairman of the Great America PAC, which is a pro-Trump PAC, we should mention. Hank Scheinkopf, also with us on the right of your screen, former Democratic consultant for the Clinton-Gore campaign. In simple terms, Hank, explain to us why it is that an unpopular candidate at the top of the ticket might affect, your local congressional race.
Crossover voting is not the norm in American politics. It's very hard to get voters to go from line to line. They tend to vote in a straight line. It's just complicated. And what will happen here is with a Trump who's very unpopular, people say, wait a second, they'll just come down that column. Now, there are 9 or 10 Senate races that are marginal at best. The Republicans are in very serious trouble in 5 of them anyway, off the top. The House is another story. The House is not likely to turn Republican, but the number of seats that can be picked up may grow exponentially depending upon how bad this gets.
Hank says that Donald Trump is unpopular. Hillary Clinton is unpopular as well, although she is ahead of him in the national poll.
The critical change, and I used to be chairman of the congressional committee many years ago, so I know a lot about House races. It used to be that the top of the ticket sometimes was splitting votes. Sometimes you could basically vote for the president and one party and go down and vote the other. It's pretty much now over 90%. If you're a Republican, you're going to vote for the Republican Senate candidate, presidential candidate, House candidate. So the worry that the Republicans have is there a drop-off in Trump support among Republicans? If he gets off 10, 15% of the normal Republican vote, that's going to have an impact down the field. The bottom line is there's enough time here for most of these Republicans in these districts. They know the districts a lot better than Trump does. They'll start running independently of him, and there's sufficient resources out there. But if they lose 15 or 20 seats, which is possible, then they're going to have a very tough time making the game work.
You've seen prominent Republicans say, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump. You've also seen, members of Congress like Mike Coffman out in Colorado take out ads saying that he doesn't think much of Trump and he will stand up against him if need be. Is that part of what's going on here, part of the attempt to insulate themselves?
It's part of the attempt to insulate. The question is how successful it will be. In previous cases, it's not really been that successful when you've had controversial Republicans running for president or trying to be reelected as president. Ditto on the Democrat side. You've had these wipeouts. People tend to react in particular ways when they're given the information they are, and protecting yourself from a tidal wave is very difficult.
So talk to us, Ed, about the prospects. I mean,
well, first of all, there's a long ways to go before this race is over. I mean, I think it's going to be much closer than the polls indicate today. And if it comes down to a 3 or 4% race either way, a lot of those incumbents can save themselves. It's about a 5-point gap. If Trump loses by 5 points, then probably everybody can make it. If he loses by 10 points, then it's going to be very hard. If he obviously wins, the game is totally different.
But obviously, at the same time, the House and the Senate are different animals. Are you making projections at this point about the prospects for the Democrats in the Senate?
Senate is generally a fair fight. The House is, frankly, more challenging for Democrats because the Republicans were wise enough to be able to elect the state houses and senates where reapportionment decisions were made. Therefore, those lines were drawn for Republicans. The fact that many of those Republicans are now in trouble is an indication of how serious the Trump problem is for Republicans overall.
If suburban and rural voters don't turn out and vote for Trump, then Republicans will have a difficult time in the House.
Absolutely accurate.
But he is not a traditional Republican. Does he still affect Republican ballots and voters in the same way?
Absentee ballots start in a couple weeks, and so a lot of people go in and vote way before they see the final ads or the final expenditures of money. It really depends on the get out the vote effort. I think both sides have a lot of money, and they're not dependent on Trump for the money. And so my sense is if you know today that you're in a district and you're in trouble, you're doing your own polling, you're going to make all kinds of alterations to your own campaign.
Suburbs will determine the outcomes here. Rural areas, yeah, but suburbs, certainly. Suburban voters who decide Trump's too much, they used to vote for Republicans, they were independents. They're the ones who can decide the outcomes here.
Especially in Ohio and Florida.
Absolutely. Even if we lose 15 seats in the House, though, we have a 30-seat margin. That'll change the dynamics dramatically.
Ed Rollins, Hank Scheinkopf. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.